All right, just back onto the run now. As I was running, I just saw, or I heard, I wasn't even see it. There's a sharp curve around here, right here, but the cars have to go along it too. And I heard some crunching noises, and I look over, and this little hatchback is, oh, that's my phone. Drop my phone. So I'm running and I heard this crunching sound. Then I saw a little hatchback sliding upside down. It was crazy. I didn't know what was going on. I was about to call 911. Yeah, I was real scared. The guy in there was fine. He just walked right out. Airbags are amazing. And there was no one else in the car. But he came out and he walked out and he was just mad that he wrecked his car. But he was also very glad because he thought that he was going to flip over the wall and end up in the water. Right now, it's relatively warm for winter, but still about freezing, and the water is at about freezing temperatures. Parts of it are getting frozen, so that could have been really bad. I stuck around trying to redirect traffic because these cars come around here pretty fast. And then once the fire department arrived, I stuck around for a little while longer. And then once the second fire truck arrived, I took off. But man, how scary. 10.16 miles, 8 minutes, 59 seconds per mile, 139 beats per minute today on what ended up being a very unusual Sunday long run. I wasn't even planning on making a video for today. Currently, I'm still kind of recovering from the Houston Marathon, and I've been collecting footage of me running in max cushion shoes for a big max cushion shoe comparison video. Today was running in the Ultra Boost. Yesterday I ran in the Triumph 17. So today was just about collecting and having more footage and kind of just more running experience in the different shoes for comparison purposes. When all of a sudden, when I was running, I was listening to my audiobook, and I got to the point on the trail on the lakefront path where they usually have a lot of signs and barriers, because that part of the curve for both cars and pedestrians is a really sharp, like pretty much like a 90-degree turn, and it gets very icy and slippery. And so I was worried about navigating that, when all of a sudden I saw and heard pretty much at the same time, I saw something happening like in my peripheral vision, and then I heard crunching, and then as I look over, I see a car flip over and start sliding, not towards me, because I'm not on the highway. I was like next to it, running next to it, but that's a point where the distance between the path and the road is very small. And so I saw this car sliding towards me, and right at that point, there's a little spot where a person could jump right out onto the road. And so like it came to a stop, like as I was hopping up. You first, when you see that kind of thing, you're like, someone else is going to stop, someone else is going to do something. But then I'm thinking to myself, as cars are whizzing past, and just trying not to get involved in a pileup, that I'm the person that's supposed to do something. So I get out there, and I'm yelling at at the car because I can't see inside it because all the side curtain airbags had gone off. And I'm yelling at it, I'm calling 911. Is everyone okay in there? I'm like trying to assess the situation, figure out what's going on. Like the wheel on the back of the car is still like spinning as this is all happening. And it's just very surreal to run up to a car like that. As I'm like yelling at the car, the driver just kind of like walks up and he's just walking around the car as if he had just approached the scene as a bystander as well. Kind of like just completely fine. Doesn't have a scratch on him. He's not bleeding. He's not hurt. He's not limping. He's not favoring a limb or anything like that. So it was really just strange. He couldn't find his phone because he had flipped over and everything was upside down in the car. And so I let him borrow my phone to start making phone calls. And then as I was doing that, I'm realizing there's cars still whizzing past. Another car had stopped and asked us if we were okay and stayed there and made sure that we were okay and everything too. But I'm realizing that, there's cars still coming by really quickly at the curve. So someone's got to warn people because that curve is clearly slippery. So being able to navigate the curve safely is one thing. Being able to safely navigate it while avoiding a turned over car in a lane is a little bit different entirely. So I got out there and I tried to I'm like, what is the signal? I don't need people to stop, but I want people to move out of the way. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing and instantly regretting that I decided to wear all black on this particular day, like I do on most days. And so it was just a really weird situation. The fire department arrived really quickly. And they were able to take control of the situation really fast. So I was very glad to see them. I didn't know if they would want me to stick around for the police department to arrive, or if the police department even arrived. I'm sure they did at some point. But I asked them do you guys need me to stay? And they were like, no, we're good, we're fine here. They had the driver to talk to get a take on what had happened from. There weren't any other cars involved. The strange thing was that. In that spot, as I was walking from the car to move further up so I could warn other cars, there was a broken front end, a grill and a bumper and headlights from another car that had clearly been there for a little while. And I suddenly remembered that yesterday, the day before this, I had seen just a random tire in that part of the lakefront trail where I was in between some of the road barriers, and I was like, that's a weird place for a tire. So, clearly right now, it's a relatively dangerous curve at that part of the highway there, and it's 4 lanes wide in one direction. So cars come around there really quick. But right now in Chicago with the winter, it's been a really weird week of weather where it hasn't been cold. It's been above freezing for the most part, except at night. And then we'll have constant almost precipitation where the air is very heavy with it's about to rain or it's about to snow. It's very almost humid for winter because the air temps are at a point where anything that's frozen on the ground can kind of thaw and evaporate. So it's been a really weird winter time for us here in Chicago weather-wise. And clearly it's taking its toll on some motorists. So that was a really weird way to have a run. At some point, I paused my watch. So instincts just are instincts, right? And so you're oh, run is interrupted. At some point, I clicked it because I was moving around enough that the auto pause would have been going on and off. So that's not something that happened when I went back and looked at the tracing. And I just went on with the rest of my run. That guy, he was fine. He was really worried that not only was he going to flip over the car, but that the car was going to flip over the wall and end up in the lake, which a salt truck had just slid into the lake a month prior. So it was something that was clearly on his mind and on people's minds. It's crazy how things can happen really, really quickly. So an unintentionally pensive day, because later on in the day, my wife and I don't really I'm not really on Facebook anymore. I found it really an unhappy place for me to be for the most part, so I don't really like to use it. And my wife still is on it for keeping up with a lot of the family stuff. And we don't usually sit around, and we very rarely have a conversation of like, hey, look at this thing I saw on Facebook. But my wife did that, and it was a little bit more serious than that. But one of my good friends, their family is very involved in basketball, and especially coaching their kids to play basketball, both their son and daughter. Their kids play at a very high level. And it's something that they had posted on Facebook, and we were both kind of shocked by it, that Kobe Bryant had died in a helicopter crash with his daughter and another parent and player on the team, a young player on the team that he was coaching. And so, like, he's 41, which is pretty much the same exact age as me. So, like, that's the way that I'm connecting to it, other than the fact that I remember, I was in high school when he was getting drafted out of high school. I was in high school when he was getting drafted out of high school. And so in high school, basketball was a really big, like a lot of Asian American kids, like basketball was something I was like obsessed with in high school. And so that's it's just very surreal second thing to happen on the day. And then weird things like that kind of happen in threes, and weird tragedies tend to happen in threes. And so this time of year, I'm also typically very much reminded of the passing of my friend and mentor that happened in January. It's been 10 years ago now, but he took his own life. And it was very sudden, just like the rollover crash this morning was very sudden and out of nowhere. And this helicopter crash that was reported in the news comes out of nowhere. His death and passing was also very sudden, and it came out of nowhere. He was 43, which also is the closer I get to that age, the more like the memorial of his passing becomes more and more poignant to me in a very selfish kind of way. But the thing that I'm always always like makes me remind and think of him is whenever I watch the movie Aladdin for a couple of reasons. The main being that like Robin Williams as the original genie. There is a lot of similarities between those two guys in terms of like their ability to command a room and just be extremely charismatic and have just this obsessive desire to make sure that everyone in the room loves them. My friend and mentor Mike, he was like that too. Such a lovable guy. And we all know later what happened to Robin Williams, and so there's always like this weird connection that I had. Not weird, I guess it makes sense, but there's a connection that I have. And for whatever reason, even though I love the Disney like animated movies that kind of were popular when I was growing up and when my sister was growing up, my daughters usually aren't that interested in them, probably because like the animation style is old and very different from what they have today. But yesterday they wanted to watch Aladdin, although they wanted to watch the live action version with Will Smith. But still, the two movies kind of still connect in my mind. I'd never seen the live action one before. It's actually quite delightful. But so that was like kind of like the third kind of like death thing that came to me in the same day in a relatively short amount of time. So a very weird day, very different than the normal kind of videos that I have here. But something that I just... this isn't just about reviews and races here or training. It's a running vlog. That's like what the whole channel is about. And sometimes unexpected things happen, and it makes you stop and kind of take stock and appreciate and be thankful for the ability to get out there and run, the ability to hug your loved ones, and the ability to reach out and be a good friend and be a compassionate member of a great community. And so that's what I'm going to be doing and reminding myself of at this time, because it's been a very weird day. Tomorrow is a planned rest day, and I have to do work's going to be really, really weird. I'm going to have a lot of time to myself tomorrow. I'll probably just listen to an audiobook or something, but potentially do some more just kind of reflecting, which maybe is a good thing. But just a weird little hiccup in the training for today. An unusual video. Thanks for kind of like letting me like process this this way with you guys. Yeah, I've posted the pictures on Instagram and Strava, and so a very unusual event. But I thought I'd give you guys a little bit more detail and kind of explain kind of what happened. And yeah, it was just weird. I'm glad everyone's okay, at least from the rollover crash, and was able to just walk away from it. By the time I had hit the turnaround point for my run and then come back, the road was cleared. All the debris was cleared, or at least cleared off of the main road, and it was as if nothing had happened. The world kind of just continued on, which is its own, I guess, like existential metaphor. But anyway, that's all I have for today. Before I go, I do want to remind you guys about the charity runner for this week. This week it's Bruno Artacho, who's going to be running the DC Rock and Roll Marathon on March 1st and raising money for St. Jude. I was happy to donate $70 to Bruno's fundraising efforts, and I'll post a link in the description in case you'd like to learn more. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?